everyone, it's Celeste and welcome back to my channel. My channel is all about cosplay! I teach you tutorials on how to make the outfit, how to do the makeup, so you can become the character of your dreams. Today is part 2 of Evelynn's cosplay from the Prestige KDA line. You can see that I've already got it all over me, and this is what it looks like. I created it in a backpack style using white velour fabric, gold bias tape, wire, interfacing, cardboard, elastic, and of course the gold stretch lycra, clear plastic, foam, and a lot of hot glue. In my previous video you actually saw me make my Prestige Evelynn cosplay, so this one we're finishing it up by showing you how to make the tails. If you're new to my channel, make sure to click that red button down below to subscribe to become a member of my sewing pincushion called YouTube. This video is really long, so let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. Just a quick side note. I wanted to do my hair like this because it's summertime. What's the problem with that? Oh yeah, if you haven't checked it out, I've made this shirt on my YouTube channel. So it's a quick little watch and it's super breezy. It's super easy to do if you're new to sewing. So, I have a playlist for that. Alright, we gotta get to the tutorial! Ah! I finished drafting out the little tails for Evelynn's tails. So the little lasher part, this one took about 7 different tries. Here is all of the wonderful scrap material that I've been cutting up. I had a few different trials where I just made a V and that wasn't what I wanted. Then I made an extremely tight V and that still wasn't one I wanted. So in order for me to fully explain this, you want to kind of make a shallow V at the top and then a deep V at the bottom. So make sure that the bottom is longer so you have a nice little fold. I folded the paper in half and then cut it, and it was easier that way. But yeah, this is how I came up with it. I did 2 V's and then I taped it together, and then I put a little inset in the center. So for reference, the V, the fold in the middle is actually 7 inches, and then the length on the side is 11 inches long. Once you have your pattern, make sure to take it apart carefully because you're going to be cutting this out on foam. You can use scissors or you can slowly peel away the tape. For obvious reasons, I wanted to try to do one just single piece, but it doesn't fit on a piece of craft foam. So go ahead and completely remove it from each other. And then begin tracing your pattern out on foam. I'm using this light blue foam because it's very close to the color of her actual lashers. They used to be gold, but now they're like ice blue, and I'm just gonna have to use this. Light blue. Don't be afraid to label your pieces because you might lose them and you want to know which one you are using. I also made this diamond piece from a piece of paper. This is going to go in between the lashers. Since I've used up all the space that I can for this build on this one sheet of foam, I'm going to begin cutting it out. You can see that I fit 2 insets, which will fit for 1 V, and then I created 3 diamonds. You only need 2 diamonds, one for the front and one for the back. But I'll still need another piece of foam to create the other lashers. So you can see here I have everything separated and cut out for the tails. I have this clear box that I got for a ice cube tray, and I thought this would be really nice if you don't have any kind of clear plastic. So keeping clear plastic containers such as what you get your lunch in, make sure you wash it, or some kind of filament from like a Barbie doll. Plastic is reusable. So with that, we are going to be placing one large piece in between first. Then we are going to glue it down. And then we are going to attach it, the diamonds, there. So it'll look like this. Originally, I thought this box would just pop open. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So I'm going to have to cut very slowly on the fold so I get a clean piece of plastic. You'll only need 2 pieces of plastic for the left lasher and 1 for the right lasher. So I'm doing the technique that I did on my finger claws. I'm going to give a line of hot glue in the dead center of the lasher, and then I'm going to fold it over. Once I do that, I'm going to hold it there for a few seconds so it creates an edge that will become raised. Here you can see the difference as I open one up, and one of them is still flat. Now repeat this process for the other pieces of the lasher, and repeat the process for the diamonds. The diamonds, you want 2 folds, one from top to bottom, then one from left to right. This way you get the actual kite shape. This is the end shape that you want for your diamond. Now that all pieces are detailed, we're going to start assembling. We're going to draw a line of hot glue at one edge and make sure it's a generous amount. Now take your two lasher pieces and glue them together at the top seam. You want to push them lightly together, but not completely, so you don't burn your fingers. And slowly work your way, lining up the pieces all the way to the middle point. For the middle point, I'm going to use this really tiny piece of plastic to make sure that it does not bend and it's rigid and it doesn't break. So I'm going to add a lot of hot glue and then slowly insert it in between the two pieces of foam and then seal it off on the other side. This is great if you plan on having your lashers drag on the floor. If someone steps on it, you don't want it to get ruined and rip apart. So it's like structural integrity. This is what your finished little lasher should look like. Now we just have to add the little V part on the inside and then add the clear parts. I made the mistake of gluing this on the plastic first and then putting the insets. No, put the insets first, then the plastic. So it won't be so difficult. I still have the opening grain here, and then I can just slowly peel this part back here and it's not a problem. And then I just need to glue the diamond on top of it. And then we can make the fabric pieces and of course, get out your nice gauge wire. Now add hot glue to the edges of your foam pieces on your lasher. Slowly sandwich your foam pieces with the plastic in between it. Make sure your plastic is at the edge first and then work your way over to the other edge. That way it lays flat and your lasher does not pucker. You want it to be nice and flat. And this is before I made the inseam, so this is prior footage. I didn't pick the footage with the inseam already in. If your foam is popping up, go ahead and go back and add more hot glue and slowly press it down and make sure you keep it in place. To put the diamond down, we're going to glue the edges of the top part of the diamond onto the plastic. I wanted the diamond to float in between the lasher and the fabric, so I'm going to have a little bit of the diamond float in between the plastic and the lasher itself. Now glue down the other diamond on the other side to complete the 3D model, then do this again for the other lasher. Now for the fabric part, I'm going to be using this gold stretch lycra. I'm going to be using the lasher itself as a spotting kind of tool. It's not going to be the best ruler, but it gives me an idea of where to cut. I'm going to start marking from where the blue edge finishes versus where the plastic finishes, because I'm going to cut away the plastic and make the correct shape. Now I'm going to also cut off the excess on the other side because we want straight edges all around. I'll also have to use this as a pattern again to cut out a second one. So this next part is actually working on the bottom part of the tails. I already cut out both of the gold pieces of the tails. I decided to use this damask fabric that I used for my Score Bunny costume. I almost forgot the name of it. And it has kind of like this nice little pattern and it will look great when I add the quilting on it. So what I'm going to do is actually just lay out the fabric and then I'm going to cut it. Now, before you move them any crazily and just push them to the side, line them up the way that you have them, wrong sides together, and then sew them down. You don't want to move them or mess this up or not do the step within the same 5 minutes because you will spend a long time fixing it. So sew the right sides together, making a very long gold and white tube. Now flip the right sides out and then give a top stitch not so close to the seam but away from it. Give it like a millimeter or so. And this is because we want to add wire in between there. Alright, so do that on both sides to both of the tails. I thought of this step a little bit late, but I'm highly recommending that you add this somewhere in your creation process. Not necessarily after you put the tubes together because it was a little bit difficult to iron in, but put in some interfacing inside of your tube. Be careful on how you iron this down because the stretch lycra is a type of plastic and it can melt if it's too hot. This didn't happen to me because I know not to put it too hot and I did do the velour side, so it's okay. Try to add as much interfacing as possible and then you'll be fine. So I did try interfacing first on the white piece of fabric and this is where I got messed up with putting it back onto the gold piece. So honestly, if you have the gold piece at least pinned down, you could still add the interfacing and then flip it inside out as a tube. Now, to make the lattice parts, I marked out 5 inches on both sides of the seam, and then I'm going to be sewing zigzags to each little mark piece. And I'm going to be alternating it each time so it doesn't look like one weird giant straight line. I just wanted to mention I did put gold thread in the bottom bobbin, and then I used regular white thread on the top. This way it would have a very nice clean effect and I didn't have stupid colors showing up on the gold fabric. This is the end result with only the 5 inches difference. I don't like it as much. It doesn't have as much quilting on it like this one. So I'm going to go back in between and do just my own eyeball version and go in between the crisscrosses. I got really tired of marking out how far 5 inches was. I don't think I can handle doing 2.5 inches all the time, so I still recommend doing 5 inches increments and then going back and eyeballing. If you don't think you have really good straight line sewing skills, don't do this. Go ahead and mark out the 2.5 inches and then sew your lattice work. You can see that I'm doing it here, and I'm stretching both of the fabrics so it does not pucker. If one puckers on the underside, it's going to look really bad. This looks so much better having the extra lines. It's got more of the quilted look. I wish I put more interfacing in between so it pops out a bit more, but that's okay. It even has the quilted look on the inside. So I wanted to show you here at the top part, when it was just the singular 2, it definitely didn't have as much quilting. So definitely do 2.5 and 5 inch marks. So here I'm using recycled cardboard for the backpack base. I'm going to be making these tails as a backpack so I can take them off and on and it's easy for transport. So now I need 2 big pieces of cardboard that fits my back. I decided to use this ice cream box as my base. I made sure to have a wide enough piece so that it fit one of the tails, and then we're going to lay the tail on it on top of it again. You can lay it a few different ways, but I really liked it having itself on top of each other so it's a nice clean look. Now make sure you have a second piece of that cardboard so you can really sandwich it in. I cut 2 pieces of elastic so they can fit around my shoulders. This will hold the backpack piece like a backpack. I do recommend having a thicker elastic because this will get pretty heavy. Now I got a scrap piece of paper the same width as the tails. I'm drawing a line from the center to this edge and then vice versa. I'm making sure that I fold this first, and then now I'm going to cut it out only at the V fold part in the center. This is going to create the bottom fold for Evelynn's tails, right where we want to add the lasher part. Now line up both of the tails where you want the bottoms to go and then pin them together so they do not move. You don't want them to move because you want this to be completely symmetrical, and that way you don't have to cut multiple times. So now go ahead and lay down your pattern piece. For me, I didn't want to pin it down anymore because they kept shifting and pins were in the way, so instead I traced it on and then pinned it. This way it will be so much easier to cut through 4 pieces of fabric. Now I went ahead and cut it out. Yay, scissor noises! Woo, 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 woo! Now go ahead and take out one of your lashers and line it up with the bottom of the tails. You want to make sure that it's very even and symmetrical from where the diamond is positioned and the edge pieces of the lasher itself. Don't worry too much about the plastic because that you can cut off. Now go ahead and mark it. It's okay that I'm using this bright colored marker. It's because we're going to be covering this later with some gold bias tape. I'll go ahead and cut off the excess pieces of plastic. You're probably thinking, oh, but what if it's too wide? It's okay, go ahead and cut everything off on the side that goes past the foam pieces too. Make sure you warm up your glue guns because now we're going to be adding this gold single fold bias tape in the middle of the white piece of the fabric. So we want to add this in the middle, making sure that we do not glue down the middle of this piece. We're actually going to be gluing down the actual sides of the bias tape, not the middle, because we are putting a wire in it. I'm going to emphasize this one more time. Do not glue down straight down the middle. Now continue gluing all the way up to the top edge. I should mention that I tacked it down first in the middle, so that way it's at that fold. And the reason why we did the cuts first is because we wanted to make sure that we didn't waste any of the bias tape and then cutting it off, because this stuff is expensive and I cannot find it in Denmark. Just in case you were wondering on how I did this gluing process, I glued one side and then I glued the other and then I pressed it down. Now when I got to the edge and I still had leftover bias tape, I just cut it off. Make sure to snip off any extra bias tape that you put on at the beginning. Now with hot glue, line the top edge of the plastic and then slowly press down, centering it onto the fabric piece. Now we are going to do another line of glue at the top edge of the plastic and the fabric. Then we are going to use gold ribbon, aka cut up gold bias tape, and lay it on top to hide our gross edges. I'm going to go ahead and cut this part a little bit short at a diagonal, that way it looks like it's going to be covered on top. Then I'm going to lay the new clean edge on top of that same cut, so this way it creates a crisp line, and this way it looks seamless. Repeat this entire method onto the other side and on the other tail. Remember I said get that wire out a little bit ago? Yeah, I completely lost it, so I just got out another bag. We're going to be putting wire in the middle piece and then on the sides. I'm going to be testing it out with this long piece of wire first to make sure I have enough wire going in. You don't want it to be too little because it'll be hard for you to maneuver and get the right shape that you want. The reason why we're using wire is that way you can position it however you want without having to use clear string and then feeling weird when you go to the bathroom. Now test it out with one piece of wire, and if you think you have enough space to fit 2 wires in, take out that first piece of wire and then put 2 pieces in at the same time. Continue this for the middle piece and the other seam, and then repeat until you have the other tail finished as well. Here I'm going to start making the backpack. I already did so by gluing down the elastic onto the ice cream board. I'm going to have the ice cream board facing on the inside, so the darker gray side is on the outside. Now we're going to take our tails and glue it to the board. But first we gotta make sure we have enough wire and it's sticking out correctly. Once we have the wire, I'm going to take the middle one and coil it in the center of the board and put it underneath the fabric. I'm also going to curl any of the wires that are too big to go around the board. This is because the ones that are small enough to go around the board, it'll be hidden by fabric later. And the ones that have the long enough wire, that's going to act as a stable support system. Now to hide down the wires, I'm going to actually do 2 methods. I'm first going to glue down all over on top of it using scrap fabric to hold it down in place so it does not pop up in between both tail layers. Now I'm going to take the second tail and make sure the white part is down, and then I'm going to glue it on top of everything that we just did so that way everything is even. Now I'm going to repeat the same steps with the wires, but if anything is too long, I'm just going to curl it into a coil, and then anything that's a little bit too short, I'm going to just fold it over onto the other side of the cardboard. Now we're going to take that extra piece of cardboard and a ton of hot glue, and we're going to sandwich it all together. This is because we want to keep everything flat and secure and not popping off, so we're just going to keep on adding hot glue inside, slowly pushing down the extra piece of cardboard. Also make sure to keep the gray part on top because we're going to be covering it with some scrap fabrics. Starting with the back piece, I'm going to be adding scraps from when I made the jacket, which is the stretch white taffeta. I'm going to put down a generous amount of glue and then slowly press on top of it, making sure not to burn myself. Then any parts that are still left over, I'm going to use more hot glue and push down again. I'm going to repeat this side on both the front and the back until I have a nice thick layer of fabric. And then you're done. One thing I forgot to show you guys in my steps, and this is completely optional for you all, is that I went back on my foam pieces and put silver nail polish on top of it. I didn't have a lot of silver left, and I know that my nail polish collection is kind of like existent, So I don't really wear nail polish anymore, so I decided just to go ahead and use the rest of it just to detail it, and then I can toss away the nail polish. That way I don't have it. So if you ask in a future video why I still have that nail polish, it's because I didn't finish it yet. So feel free to do different methods to seal your foam. This one is not completely sealed at all. I did not heat seal it or anything like that. You could do that on your own time, but this is just the general shape finishing of the KDA tails for the Prestige Evelynn look. My overall thoughts with this costume is, wow, I don't really ever want to wear this costume again. I feel really bad saying that, but I want you guys to understand my thoughts. This costume screams Golden Disco Queen, and when it's translated in real life, maybe it's just something that I just don't like, because there was a collar that they added now. She's got longer hair. Everything changed from like blue claws, from gold claws, and now these parts are no longer like gold, which I think was a good design choice, but wearing it in public and having like the entire look on, I don't know if it's my skin tone, I don't know if it's just the way that it looks, but I don't think it's like the best skin or cosplay that I've made. That's not to say that if I had gone back and taken my time with this cosplay, would it be better? Maybe. It's like, I don't know, the Prestige line doesn't look as good as I thought it would when it's translated into real life. So maybe it's better kept as a drawing. I don't know, leave me a comment down below if you think this is still a good cosplay that I should wear around, or if I shouldn't. Someone in my comments did say to make Popstar Evelynn like the regular KDA skin. I am contemplating on making it, and after making this one, it doesn't seem as hard, and now that I've actually tackled one of her tails, I should be trying to make more Evelynn cosplays in the future. So leave me a like if you like the idea of me doing more League of Legends cosplays. Make sure to check out the video surrounding my head all the way around my headspace over here. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel, click that notification bell so you can catch for more cosplay goodness. Stay inspired, be creative, and I will see you in a future video. Bye!